How's it going, everybody? I am the Texas Man. I hope you guys are all having a spectacular day. Make sure you guys give this video a thumbs up if you guys really enjoy it. Subscribe if you guys have not already. Also, do me the biggest favor of all, hit the bell notification button so you guys don't miss out on future videos or live streams coming out here on my channel. With that, of course, we are going to be starting off with the first book. This is going to be R.M.G, which stands for Romance, Murder, and Grace. This is, of course, the first book on my list of all of my books that I wrote when I was much younger. And so we're going to be going through the best ones. There's a couple that I wrote that I'm not going to read for you guys because they're like 5 minutes long. Like, it's like an essay. They're really short. So we're going to be starting off with this one. This is R.M.G. All my books have a intro on the first page. So I will be reading those, and then we will dive right into continuing on with the actual book. I'm not sure exactly how long this is. Most of my books are really long, like they are 7 to 17 chapters long. So what I'm going to end up doing is I will be dividing these books primarily depending on how long they are. There are a couple that are short that I should be able to go, that I will be able to get into one video. But primarily, I'm going to end up having to break up reading each book individually. So I will be making it so that whatever the book is, I will have it in the title, and then I will have like part 1, part 2, part 3, things like that. So it'll be easier for you guys to navigate. Also, I am going to have all of my books in its own playlist. So if you guys miss out on this video and you don't want to search through all my other videos with my music, TV shows, airsoft, film reviews, video games, and all of my live streams, all of my books that I'm going to end up reading through are going to be all in one playlist, so you guys will be able to find them much easier than scrolling through everything. My goal is I'm going to have at least one read through of my books up at least once every 2 weeks. It might be shorter, it might be longer, just depends what's going on in my personal life. And of course, I'm still putting out other content for you guys. So this is just a little side dish. This is just a little extra icing on the cake for you guys that have been requesting this. So with that, let's get right into starting to read. Okay, guys? One second. R.M.G. Introduction. Set in the near future, this drama tells a sad story about love, death, and grace. Laura Littlewinter marries John Truststrong, and everything seems to be going according to plan for their honeymoon. But death makes its way to John's body in the form of a bullet. Laura races against the clock as she makes a sketch of the murderer and learns that the man is heading for Gateway Island. Obstacles hinder Laura's quest for revenge, including her car breaking down, defending a house with FBI agents, and adopting a young boy with no family. Once the obstacles are overcome, Laura sets out with her adopted son, Thomas, and together they unravel the mystery to John's murder. Filled with an armory of different weapons and twists and turns, this book will help keep you asking one major question. Is there any adult Laura can trust to aid her in her quest for her murderer's death? Will Laura have the chance to pull her pistol's trigger? If she does, will she kill him or offer grace instead? It is the ultimate battle between good and evil as the clock nears the beginning of a possible nuclear war. Will Laura save the America she loves, or will vengeance take her over? Chapter 1. Dating. She is a very adventurous, not easily scared, and enjoys finding new things type of person. She was waiting inside of her home for a rich, super, powerful, gentle, confident, courageous, heroic, and dynamic man like me, John Truststrong. I'm going to be late, I exclaimed. I quickly pulled out my favorite BJ beige shorts, green button-up shirt, and rushed out of my house. My first date, and I'm going to be late, said John, pulling out of his driveway in his 2004 Ford pickup truck. On the way to his girlfriend's house, John couldn't stop believing that she was going to kill him. I finally pulled up to my girlfriend's driveway 10 minutes after I promised I would arrive. I stepped out of the truck wearing ruined clothing and knocked on the door to greet my girlfriend. The door opened, allowing John to see his girlfriend on the other side. She was wearing clothing similar to John's and was holding a bag that contained a surprise. "Can we go to your house before we leave to eat?" asked Laura. "Why?" asked John, holding her hand to his truck. "I thought we could change into some more appropriate clothes for our date." "But I know you didn't want to take me out in that," said Laura. The two 16-year-old lovers entered the truck and arrived at John's house within minutes. John looked around his driveway to realize his parents weren't home anymore. The two entered the house and walked into separate rooms to change into more dress-like clothes. Laura's bag contained a silky dress and other accessories to make her a wonderful young lady to date and eventually marry. John dashed into his separate room after showing Laura to his parents' room to change himself. When John was finished dressing himself in a tuxedo and black shoes, he traveled to the staircase which led to the second floor, where Laura was at. "Laura, are you okay?" asked John. There was no answer. John walked a few steps on the staircase and then down the second floor's hallway and spiral staircase. There was no answer. John walked a few steps on the staircase and then down the second floor's hallway and the spiral staircase came a dazzling sight. John began to blush, for Laura was wearing a dress that made her appear. No, she was, truly, Cinderella, coming towards her Prince Charming. Laura's blonde hair matched perfectly with the white, bright gown and the glowing headband and the glass slippers. "You look outstanding," said John. "Thank you, and the same for you," said Laura. John took Laura by the hand and escorted her to the truck, all the way to the most expensive restaurant in the state of Michigan. The drive to the restaurant was not as bad as Laura thought it would be. It didn't take long to warm up to each other the way they had done so before this romantic date began. They had a great dinner, both talking and laughing all the way through the meal. Once the two lovebirds finished their meal, John took Laura to the restaurant's dance floor and danced forever. They danced and danced until the stroke of midnight, close to the time that John was told to return Laura to her house, due to her parents. John held her hand as they drove home, and he began to feel something that he had never felt before: love. John walked with Laura to the door and informed her that he enjoyed the date. John left Laura and walked a couple steps towards his truck, was grabbed by Laura, and kissed on the lips. "I enjoyed the date too," said Laura. Laura entered the house and left John outside, frozen, because he had no idea that she loved him that much. John left Laura's house and prepared for work tomorrow. Chapter 2. The Night. John awakened to his alarm clock, which was set for 8 a.m. on July 24th, 2016, and prepared to depart for his job at R.M.G. R.M.G. was the world's largest company, selling anything and everything to every nation, including third world countries such as Haiti and Jamaica. John's job was to come up with new video games for American citizens, both in the United States and other parts of the world. At about noon, John left his job for lunch at a small coffee shop where Laura was going to meet him. She was patiently waiting for him, since he was turning out to be late again. When John arrived, the two sat in the cafe for an hour, eating and talking about themselves. John was from a wealthy family, while Laura was considered a middle-class American citizen in the remote town of Rowe Village, Michigan. After lunch, John returned to his job, and Laura walked home. It was now April 30th, 2021, a day of great celebration. The sound of bells and the wedding song were heard for miles as Laura and John entered their limo, leaving the church where they had just been officially married. It was now legal for marriage since they were dating in the past years in their high school years. Laura wore the same silky gown that she wore on her first date with John. John wore one of the most expensive tuxedos in America. The time was exactly 8:30 p.m., several hours after the end of the banquet party. The limo drove up to a five-star hotel and stopped at the entrance door to allow John and Laura to exit the limo. John had already paid for the room, so all they had to do was receive the key from the front desk and take the elevator to the hotel's fifth and highest floor to enter their room. John and Laura exited out of the elevator and walked to the room's door. John inserted the key, which resulted in the hardwood door opening. John entered the room and Laura followed. Within seconds, they were in bed, began to kiss each other, and watched rated-R movies such as The Mist. The time was now midnight, and the couple had finished watching the movie, so they decided to get some sleep. Laura pressed her head on her pillow, turned to face John, and requested him to close the window that began allowing a draft into the room. John left the bed, grabbed the side of the window, and kabang! John's body fell to the ground, and Laura jumped out of the bed to rescue her husband. Laura looked outside to see a man running away with a sniper rifle. "Laura! Laura!" said John. Laura looked at her husband with a bullet located near his heart. "I love you," said John with his final breath. "No! No! John, come back!" "No!" yelled Laura. The door to the room was smashed down, and the hotel manager, a detective, and a security guard entered. The hotel manager took Laura away from John's body and began to comfort her to the best of his abilities. The two security guards lifted John's body and took it downstairs to the ambulance for transportation to be placed underground after a funeral service. "Miss, could you inform me of what happened?" asked the detective. Laura stood up and looked at the room's window, placing a memory in her brain, but mostly in her broken heart. "I have to go," said Laura. Laura gave the detective her cell phone number and dashed for the elevator. When Laura was in the elevator, she began to draw the face of the man that she saw run away with the sniper rifle, and that had also killed John, on some paper with a pen. Chapter 3. Broken Car. "There we go. This will make no sense that he is a cruel and violent man," said Laura, still in the elevator drawing the face of John's murderer. Laura stepped out of the elevator on the first floor of the hotel, and, using her cell phone, she called the car company for a rental car. About 15 minutes later, a man arrived with a car and paperwork. "I'm sorry for your loss," said the man, passing the keys to Laura for the car in the parking lot. Laura, feeling depressed and miserable, finished the papers, took the car keys, and drove away to the highway. "She will destroy our operation," said the detective at the hotel with a slight grin. Laura was impatient with the plentiful highway of hundreds of cars and began to creep between the vehicles. Laura, in her furious anger towards her husband's murderer, stranded off into a pile of broken glass. Laura continued onwards onto a ramp to reach her destination at the police headquarters. Then suddenly the glass pierced the car's front two black rubber tires in the middle of the intersection from coming off of the ramp. Thankfully, she was the only car located near Laura's crash site, but a semi-truck was starting up the ramp from the highway to the intersection. The truck's booming horn was going, but with the car being flipped upside down, Laura was knocked out. The truck driver was really agitated and was about to push the car out of the way, with Laura still inside of it. Laura had awakened and saw her foot was trapped. "Help! Someone! Help me, please! Help!" said Laura. The truck was only a few feet away from Laura and was still trapped, but something was about to happen that she never would have expected. "Don't move, miss. I'll get you out of this," said a dynamic voice. Laura looked around to see who was talking to her, but whoever it was a person that was energetic and was moving way too fast for her face to be made out. Within 2 seconds, the person helping Laura escape, broke the car door apart and dragged Laura a great deal away from the car before the truck rolled over and the car flattened into a pancake. "Thank you," said Laura, but the person that helped her abandoned her by driving away in a black pickup truck. Laura stood up and saw the truck driver running towards her. "Are you okay?" asked the man. Yes, I am," said Laura. "Great. Then say hello to John for me," said the man, pulling out a pistol. Laura kicked the man in the wrong places and began to run into the neighborhood. The man stood up and opened fire on Laura, but continued to miss. Laura hid in a driveway and prepared to dash over a fence into a backyard if necessary. The man reloaded his pistol and walked slowly down the dead-end road. "You can't hide from me forever, Laura. I will find you," said the man. The man was now in front of the house, with the driveway where Laura was hiding, with a baseball bat she found on the pavement. "Hey, Laura, my name's James. Come out, and I'll escort you to my house," said the man, chasing Laura. Laura saw that James was coming towards the driveway and her. She placed the bat in her hands, high, and prepared to slam James in the head without making a crashing sound. Chapter 4. Agents. James took a few steps towards Laura's location and opened fire. She wasn't there anymore. "Clever, Laura, but you can't escape me when this is a dead-end street," said James. Then suddenly Laura jumped off of the roof of a house by the driveway, and, using the bat, she smashed James in the head. Laura ran out of the street and saw the same black pickup truck that drove her away coming towards her. "Quickly, miss, we must leave before he wakens," said the white man to the white woman. Laura entered the black truck and began to question who the man was and what was going on. James regained his strength and pulled out a cell phone to see that Laura had traded cell phones during the knockout. "Sir, she got away," said James on his cell phone to his boss. "How?" asked the male voice on the other line. "She used a baseball bat on me and drove away with someone," said James. "Find them both and kill them before we lose our operation," said the boss. Laura was still questioning the man that saved her before running over. Laura was still questioning the man that saved her before being run over by the semi-truck, and was becoming more cautious about the people she was with and what she said to strangers. "My name is Sawyer to you, Laura," said the man in the black pickup truck. After a long talk, Laura was informed some heartbreaking news of why her husband, John, was murdered. The reason for his death was that he, along with two other men, were nearly finished with a project for the United States government that would destroy the remaining terrorist threats in the Middle East. So a small number of terrorists have infected our nation and are planning to shut down this project by killing its researchers. But how would it stop it? How would it stop? Try that again. I'm sorry. So a small number of terrorists have infected our nation and are planning to shut down this project by killing its researchers. But how would it stop the project from continuing? And why are they after me? said Laura to Sawyer. I'm losing my voice. "They have infected the nation so far that they'll take over the project once the other researchers have been murdered," said Sawyer. "Why are they hunting me down?" asked Laura. "I'm not sure," said Sawyer. Sawyer pulled into a driveway to a house and told Laura to come with him inside. Sawyer opened the door of wood and steel and allowed Laura to pass him to step inside of the house. "This is the lady I told you about," said Sawyer, greeting an older lady in the house. Sawyer introduced the lady, for she was Sawyer's wife, Deborah. Then down the spiral staircase came a boy of the age of 8, wearing pajamas, and was also introduced to Laura as Deborah's little boy, Thomas. Deborah informed Thomas to return to his bed while the grown-ups talked. Laura adored seeing Thomas. For her, he reminded her of John on their first date in John's house. The three talked about the current situation and decided to form a secret team to locate the other two researchers before their murderer took before their murder took place in the state of Michigan. The reason that Deborah and Sawyer knew so much about the current situation was that they were both working for the FBI. I wonder if they make I wonder if they may be tracking me with my phones, said Laura. Laura looked into her pants pocket to realize that she grabbed the terrorist's phone and that James had her cell phone. Sawyer suggested that Laura use the cell phone to learn of the terrorist hideout and their future plans. Laura flipped the cover of the phone and saw that James made numerous calls to Gateway Island. Also, the phone had directions to the location of the other two researchers. In the morning, I'll drive you to Gateway Island, but I must remain on the mainland, said Sawyer. Deborah opened a box with several guns, including pistols, rifles, and machine guns, with 4 dozen clips of ammunition. Sawyer tossed Laura a pistol and told her that he had a key to the truck outside and a key to the box of weapons in case he was in a tragic event, so she could defend herself. Look, it's Grandpa, said Thomas, coming down the spiral staircase. The group looked outside to see a van pulling into the driveway. The box of weapons was reopened, and the group, minus Thomas, was given a rifle and a machine gun with several clips. It would appear that the terrorists are tracking you with that cell phone, said Sawyer. Deborah looked outside to see only one man exit out of the van, but another was still sitting inside. The group, including Thomas, left the main floor of the house and walked down to the basement. We have blocked ourselves, said Deborah. Yes, but whoever is out there can only reach us by coming downstairs, said Sawyer, pointing his rifle at the stairway. A loud smash was heard, for the intruder was inside of the house. It is probably James, the man that tried to run me over, said Laura. Thomas was pushed away from the upcoming battle scene as footsteps were heard above their heads. Laura, I can't say her name right. Laura, I know that you are here. Come out from hiding and I won't hurt you, said the man upstairs. Hey, James, why don't you tell me why you're hunting me in the first place, replied Laura. As you already know, by the help of the two FBI agents, your husband was working on the Deathly Project against us, said James. Yes, said Laura. The 2 researchers have been murdered already, but you're the only person with the key code to start the project, said James, about to come down to the basement. James took a few steps down the stairs to the basement, and then Sawyer, Deborah, and Laura opened fire to prevent James from coming closer. You won't reach Laura, so what are you going to do now? Asked Sawyer. I'll make a deal. Turn Laura over to me, and I'll leave your family out of this problem, said James. Never. Not in your lifetime. She is the only thing standing in your way of controlling this nation, said Sawyer. James pulled out of his pants pocket a gas grenade and rolled it down the stairway. Fumes began to spread, and the group couldn't see each other clearly anymore. James entered the basement, opening fire on the group. James targeted Sawyer and hit Sawyer near the heart. Next, James pointed his rifle at Deborah and shot her in the head. Then James was slapped in the back of the head by Laura's machine gun. Laura took a good look at Sawyer and Deborah to see them already dead and that calling a hospital would do no good now. Laura approached Thomas, which was frozen in shock by his parents' death, and raced him upstairs. Laura ran back downstairs to interrogate James about the key code. How do I have a key code for my husband's project? Asked Laura. When you were sent to the hospital after your car crash a few days before your wedding, John ordered a computer chip be put into your left hand, said James. Go on, said Laura. Once the chip is placed into Project Destruction or laptop computer and the key code on the chip is entered, it will start launching millions of hydrogen missiles to kill all the terrorists in the Middle East and eventually around the world, said James. Where's the laptop? Asked Laura, but, but her answer would not come, for James had regained his strength and opened fire on Laura with a pistol. Laura's body fell to the ground. James was happy. James stood up and began to call his boss to inform him that their plans were no longer in danger. But Laura had faked her death. Laura picked up the nearby machine gun and blasted James with 20 bullets in the lungs, head, heart, and the butt, finally killing him. James's body collapsed to the ground, and this time he was dead. Laura saw Thomas coming downstairs to check on her and let her know that another man was in the house that he did not know. Laura picked up her original cell phone to see that whoever James was talking to was still connected on the line. "This is Laura. Who am I speaking to?" said Laura on her cell phone. "Laura, I'm surprised that you're still alive after all this time, but your file does describe you as a hard person to kill," said the male voice over the line. "Did James kill my husband?" asked Laura. "Actually, Laura, I was the one that killed John and the other two researchers," said the man. "One last thing, Laura, before we disconnect. The man you saw running away with the sniper rifle wasn't me. That was one of my men. Or even the murderer. It was just a hunter running to his house around the corner," said the man. "That's right, Laura. The face of the man that you saw and drew in the elevator that you thought killed John is clear, but you've helped cover my operation by sending him to prison for the rest of his life," said the man. "No matter, King. I'll find the laptop first and stop your operation by killing every last one of you," said Laura. "How do you know my name?" asked King. "Caller ID just told me. You should train your men to cover up the calls they make better, King. I'll see you around," said Laura. Laura pressed end on the cell phone and placed James' cell on the floor. Footsteps were heard, for someone was coming downstairs. Laura placed her rifle in her left hand and a machine gun in the other hand to prepare to defend both Thomas and herself. And that's where I'm going to end this video. I will end up doing another read through to continue onwards. Thank you guys so much for watching. You guys all have a phenomenal day, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye, guys.